your site can be a complete and total turd. Your brand can suck. If your site speed is good, you are going to have a good conversion. I can't remember the exact number, but it's like every extra second it takes to load, your conversion drops 8%. On lower internet connections, like shitty internet connections, they're not just not having a good experience, they're not ever seeing your site because they're sitting there for 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and then they're just like, fuck this, and they swipe the window away. Yeah, they've never even seen your logo before.
All right, folks, we're back for another episode of Adspend, but you might see a non-familiar face, but better looking, and he doesn't have a water bottle he's going to drink out of every 30 seconds. Sean Brandt, co-founder of Audit, fantastic, my Canadian crusher. He's one of my favorite people. He's actually been on the podcast on You Are Not Your O as our other sister show, and we're going to go deep into some really cool CRO stuff. Ash has some really cool things that he's been doing on his site for Myavi, and he's going to cross-reference that with the master, Sean. And then Ash, as always, welcome. Thank you for actually coming onto the show. Cody's in the Bahamas somewhere, hitting golf balls, playing pickleball, living his life. When we're here grinding it out, you know what I mean? We're doing the work, and this guy's just over here riding our coattails. Ash, unbelievable.
I know, right? I know. How dare he?
How dare he enjoy his life? Doesn't he know he has podcasts to do? So yeah, Ash, why don't you just jump right in with some of the kind of CRO stuff that you've been doing, and then we'll bounce it off of Sean, and then we can kind of go from there.
Absolutely. So I think the whole premise of like the podcast and what we kind of started with was media buying and what's working on Facebook, TikTok, this and that, right? I think at the very core, for all of that to work and like, be able to kind of function and, bring in customers, your conversion rate is the most important thing, right?
Yep.
So I know we kind of touched upon this in the last few podcasts, but the biggest thing for us, has always been trying to figure out how to boost our conversion rate on our landing pages, right? So, what we ended up doing is, we created maybe like 4 to 5 different styles of landing pages just to get a theme that kind of works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you start, split testing different things, whether that's the banners, positioning of certain elements, maybe the sizing of the buy boxes and stuff like that. We figured out a formula that kind of works for us. And, what we've seen on our website is that even though I would say a majority of the traffic is new traffic coming to the website, half of the conversions happen on the landing page and the rest happen on the website. So on our end, what we started to see is that the landing page, people are coming, whatever, they're checking it out, and we have our nav on there, right? We've kind of tested with and without. With the nav kind of, did better. But what we're seeing is that not only do you have to worry about your landing page, but it's that experience where people are like, okay, well, I want to kind of go and learn about the brand before I kind of commit,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up going to the homepage and things like that, right? So a lot of it's not a ton of analysis that you have to do, but you have to look at the stages of the funnel, right? So it's like viewing the product, actually adding to cart, getting to checkout, and like completing that checkout, right? So like looking at those different inner funnel metrics, and I'm sure Sean, you can kind of talk a little bit more into this later, but at a overview, if one of those things is off, fixing it and tightening it up just a little bit can literally drastically change your conversion rate. So what we saw is that half of the traffic was converting on our landing page. The other half is going to the homepage and then buying from there, right? But that funnel wasn't set up properly, right? We kind of built the homepage in mind with like retention, but we weren't building it for new customers in mind. So what we ended up doing is, split testing things like the homepage. Do we go straight product? Do we tell a story? And then another thing that we saw was like people were buying off of collection pages instead of product pages, right? So it's like, do we optimize collection pages now and product pages? So those are the few things that I think people need to like really understand and kind of take a look at their data and like, first off, where's that drop off? And then what are the certain things that you can kind of like tinker with, right? So I think Sean, maybe, that might segue into maybe something you guys want to, or you want to maybe speak about and what things people should look at and, tinker with.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. And it's a really good point. A lot of a lot of brands we work with on the audit side and on the cool and performance marketing side, they're driving traffic to a paid marketing or sorry, a paid landing page or a paid landing page to a product landing page. And it's really set up to be shopped there, and they're not really considering that flow after. If the consumer's like, okay, it's given me just enough to be interested, and now I'm going to go to their website, and then that flow is not optimized, and that flow of a user, like you said, half of your sales, like that flow it's a really long one, right? Like they're going through two full websites to get to a purchase. So optimizing that it's really not easy. And I think products like yours that have had you've got a footing in the market, you have some tremendous success. And so, like, to your point, your homepage is much more focused on let's just get products in people's hands, and a little bit less about storytelling than a new brand will. And I think where a lot of brands miss the mark there is just finding a little more balance there, right? They're just kind of inundating you with the product, and forgetting that, while the brand may be popular and kind of out there and everyone knows it, all these new users coming through your landing page don't. So you have to inject those little story pieces. One of the things that we've seen working like the best lately in terms of content is just like surfacing real users using the product and pulling UGC directly into your homepage, like as high in the funnel as possible. Like even above a press bar and like some of the more common shit that you're seeing, that's just every site has it now. I think this isn't a data-driven response, but I think my reasoning for why it's performing so well versus, let's say, a press bar or, even just a standard review panel is that we were talking about this in the audit club last week. Press bars have just become so common that there's no brands that don't have them. And so you kind of sit back and you're like, okay, well, there's not more publications writing more articles. These people are just buying these fucking logos or they're lying about it, right? So they've started
blind to it at a point.
Yeah, they start to lose their value because are they true or are they not? And so I think by pulling up UGC, you're kind of leveling up and saying, okay, well, these are real people talking about our products that have really had an effect on them. And it just has a more powerful effect than some of that. That's not to say that trust elements like that, like press and reviews, won't be effective. But I think the more that the D2C space is evolving and growing, and there's just so much competition in every product, including your space, like that, those more authentic reviews just become so powerful for storytelling. And in a brand like yours, where your homepage is really product focused, it allows you to like pull in a really simple brand story without adding 10 cross sections to your homepage that just clutter it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is because we have such a diverse product line, right? So it's like, where do you put emphasis? Do you put it just on your top sellers? Do you, tell the story of like, all right, well, we have something for your entire lifestyle? I think we've tried to kind of get away from showcasing everything so that it's not confusing, or it's like a lot of people in our community, when they join without buying and they're kind of asking questions for the first time, a lot of the questions are, where do I start, right? So,
right.
Maybe I think one of the biggest things that we included on the homepage now is that a bestsellers item in the nav. Right. I think a lot of people start funneling down into there. Then they see like, okay, well, all right, now I know these are the top sellers. Let me just stick with that, or let me try that first. Right. And then also maybe including a quiz somewhere on the homepage, which I think we just launched the A/B test on the homepage completely. Like, A is our control with what we have right now, and B is a little bit more of that storytelling. But then also including a quiz, including store locator, because, starting picking up in retail. So like being able to maybe direct people in the direction of like, okay, maybe go for the flagship versus here's everything is probably the route that we're going to start going in. But I think it's tough. I mean, I don't know if you've seen brands with, a larger line, how do they showcase everything? Or maybe the goal is to not do that. What have you seen there?
Yeah, I find that what the strategy you're taking right now is probably the right move, which is focus more on best sellers and whatever, what your existing and past customers have really went for. Position that for your users. I think you have a really solid brand, and like overall your aesthetic, your tone of voice, kind of every element of your I guess brand ecosystem is really tight. And so getting a new user to buy into like a product that's the best seller, that they're going to have more, I guess, peers around them using it and feedback and everything like that. I think you're going to get them into the brand ecosystem, and then you can start selling them more products. So for me, it's definitely a matter of like, what is that product hierarchy in the Obvi brand, of saying, okay, well, here's the, if you come to the site and they're going to scroll, and every section that they scroll to, you have drop off, right? That first section, what's the product where it's like, we have to make sure they see this. And then this one is a little less important, and this one's a little less important. I think you can't do it one by one, right? Your catalog's too diverse, but you could do it category by category, right? I think that's super important, because your best sellers speak for themselves. Whatever is sold the best up until now, I mean, there's a reason for it. One of those reasons could be just spending more paid marketing dollars on it. Depending on what the reasons are for it to be a bestseller, I think there's definitely merit in having it higher in your hierarchy. Yeah.
I love that. Kind of building off of that, Sean, how do people need to be thinking? Because one of the things that I know is a challenge is when you have some fundamental shifts to the site, it can put off your returning customers, right? Because the patterns are different now. Like you put buttons in a different place. Like, damn it, I'm used to a certain flow and stuff like that. When you have kind of some experiential changes to some, let's just call it what is perhaps subpar flows that you've seen on clients' websites, how do you kind of mediate that, where it's like, hey, we don't want to piss off the people that are already giving us money, but to Ash's point, I want to scale it to $40,000 a day instead of $20,000 a day in paid media. And if I'm using a subpar layout and experience, but my returning customers are used to it, how do you kind of mitigate the kind of loss to the new customer or the returning customers, but also be able to, promote this new experience to the prospective client? Does that make sense?
No, it does. I think that the one thing to always keep in mind is that your brand ambassadors, your people, like your users that are already subscribers or people that are buying, I think once you have them through that, the sales funnel and the UX becomes so far down the totem pole of importance, just simply because they're really, what you're selling them when they come to the site, for someone that's never bought before, is you're trying to get them to buy into the vision, right? Buy into the brand. And yeah, there's the little like nuances of the UX that are going to convert those little percentage points different, but you're really trying to get them to believe in the brand. And I in my experience, the people that are the brand believer, they're not going to drop off because of a shift in a button or the experience is maybe longer. I think once they're a consumer, that conversion rate for that user is pretty easy to just remain consistent regardless of what you do. Now, obviously you can't just like totally fucking change the site and it's just unusable, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think your experience should always be catering as much as possible to those new users. And I think that especially in your case, Ash, like where I'm guessing a lot of your traffic is being driven by paid media, you have to be careful with changing the site too much. And then let's say that the campaigns you're running aren't changing, right? So we see a lot of audit customers, right? We'll say, hey, here's all the different things we think that could increase your conversion. And they'll just like, boom, change them all in a day. And it's like, whoa, you didn't change anything else about the traffic or the ad campaigns. Like you can't just change it all. You should be doing this incrementally to make sure that, well, one, like if we knew that all 50 recommendations were going to increase conversion, we wouldn't be running audit. We'd have 25 D2C brands and we'd be billionaires. And two, like if you implement them all at once, it's impossible to know what worked and what didn't, right? Because let's just say that we gave you 10 recommendations. 8 of them might have increased your conversion by a little bit. 1 of them might have done nothing. And 1 of them might have decreased it by, a half point. So it's like, how do you identify that if you make all those changes at once? So I think that there's kind of if you follow that rule set of just saying, let's just keep making incremental changes and move the needle bit by bit instead of trying to just say, hey, let's go for it and go for the swing for the fences. I think that can end in disaster almost every time. And by doing those incremental changes, it I guess ensures that when you're running the same paid traffic, you're not screwing that traffic up. You can kind of watch from both ends and make sure that the conversion's, doing what it needs to.
So the one thing that I've always and you I don't know if there's a right way or wrong way of doing this, right? So my mentality when I was testing completely new landing pages, right? It wasn't just making tweaks to one. It was like I need to make the big changes to see if I can make bigger swings, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I think our old landing page was converting at like a 2%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like trying to make changes to like get that from 2 to 3 was like almost impossible, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what if the entire structure just needs to be revamped? So that's when we, tested a whole different themes, and one of the landing pages that we got was at around 5 to 6%. So it was like, all right, well, we doubled, a little bit more than doubled.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, are there times where like you should go for those big changes to see if you can get those bigger swings, or do you take what's like kind of working and just like incrementally, kind of nitpicking at this stuff? Because like for me, I feel like you go either way, but like what if you just don't know if like one massive change could just change the whole trajectory of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that
Can I say it a different way?
Yeah,
Because
of
I love
course.
what you're saying, but you were using a lot of words. Like transformative versus iterative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I
Cool
think
way. Thanks, Ramo.
I think when you're driving traffic to multiple landing pages and you're seeing these two totally different layouts and flows of information operating at two totally different conversion rates, I think to me that's enough information to say, okay, we can effectively make pretty drastic changes because we've seen what works and what doesn't. I think that's a little different. And honestly, we had Nick Sharma on our audit club on Thursday or Wednesday, and one of the things that he said that he does whenever he's dealing with new brands, which I don't know why I never thought of this way, because I used to run an agency and we should have been doing this, but he just said, like, instead of hiring design agencies in the beginning, he would launch the brands under just various Shogun pages that he built himself. And he wouldn't actually put any money into the website at all, not a single dime. Completely launch the brands using Shogun templates, figure out which one, out of say 3 or 4 is converting the highest. And then he hands that to a design agency and says, apply all the beautiful shit you want to apply to it, put it on brand. But this flow of information, these details are what are converting, so don't fuck with it. And to me, that saves brands so much money, because every day all we deal with is these brands. A lot of our customers have some great success, but they're figuring out their conversion rate a year, 2, 3, 5 years into their business. They could have done it up front. I mean, obviously it's a little bit longer path and you kind of move some levers around. But to me, that process of doing those landing pages like up front and just saying, look, let's just see what people think and make those drastic changes right off the beginning. Don't make any assumptions. I mean, to me, it's such a huge shift in how to launch a brand online.
No, I'm the same page there, because I very similar to what we did was, I took my time and I built stuff out on Shogun, right? We have in-house designer, we have a developer, everything, but like I can't tell them to go and make this because it's going to take 30 days to knock out 4 pages, right? Where I can sit down one day, just get zoned in and knock them out, then see what works, right? So when I made those 4 and the one was a clear winner, then I go and take that to my other founder, Ankit, who's the main designer and everything. Now make this look better, right?
Yeah.
Now he's going to take that, give it to the developer, now hard code it instead of using Shogun, so that 1, it looks better, 2, site speed is probably fixed because like Shogun's slow as shit.
Yeah.
Now you're kind of like, all right, well, here's the winner. Let's polish it up now. So I think that's it makes sense fully.
I've never. Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and I hate to admit it, but like as a previous design firm owner, and then with audit, with a lot of what we're known for is the aesthetics of it. Like those aesthetics, they're literally just the lipstick. Like there's very few parts of that are affecting your short-term conversion. In terms of like long-term value and like keeping customers bought into the brand, sure, they're extremely important, and very few brands last that don't have those consistencies built across their aesthetic. But in terms of just discovering that solid conversion rate and building up your your brand in that foundational moment, the aesthetics aren't as important. It really is about just discovering what works for your products.
Yeah.
To build on top of that, that is really, shout out Nick Sharma, big fan of his. It's a really interesting hierarchy to kind of work through, or if you will, like an order of operations, because I think what you're doing there is one, not only are you figuring out kind of, I love how you put it, Sean, the information flow, but you're also essentially really testing product market fit because you're not being able to goose it up, right? Like this is just a foundational product and you're buying it for the product, not the marketing. And so there's also, I think, some really interesting tests there. But also to your point, Sean, which I found really fascinating, is I used to worship at the altar of aesthetics as well. And then you get into kind of proper marketing. You're like, dude, I just want what converts. I don't care if it's ugly or not. Just give me I don't care. What converts is pretty to me. That's what drives aesthetic.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because there's twofold. One, I do believe the aesthetic does need to increase because of the brand perception. But the other thing there is that might help retention, but sometimes it cock blocks acquisition because I've seen aesthetic get in the way of conversion. Have you seen that sometimes where people go overboard and like, this is the most beautiful site ever, but I have no clue where to click. I don't know how to buy the product. I don't know what's going, like, this is a magazine. This is an art piece. This isn't a conversion piece. Have you ran into that as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of fashion brands do this, right? Where they're so committed to aesthetics that they're just killing their conversion. We actually just hired one of the lead designers at Aritzia, which is like a big fashion brand, and that's one of her mandates was just like to pull that back and just figure out like how do we meet in the middle of the aesthetics and maintain that brand aesthetic while not killing conversion. And there's certain brands that get away with it. Like we dealt with one at Audit. And I won't say the name, but their homepage was just a video. That was the whole page. There was no footer, no logo. No, it was just a video of like 10 super celebrities in a looping video of wearing their jeans, right? And you just click on that video and then you're shopping these jeans. And their conversion was fine, like, right, totally abnormal experience, but they got away with the fact that people are just like, oh, Mariah Carey's wearing it, so I have to buy it. I'll do fucking anything. I don't care where the button is. I don't care. Yep. They just want to buy it. So, there's anomalies like that can get away with that crap. But for the most part, yeah, it's the aesthetics aren't really driving conversion. They're driving long-term brand loyalty in a lot of cases. Yes. But even then, it's only if you execute all the details right. The aesthetics won't do it all. It's storytelling and all these other factors that play into that bucket. You really have to nail all of them.
Yeah, and just to kind of round out this point, the one vertical, to be fair, I have seen it work in basically to your point of what you're just describing, Sean, is high fashion, where it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like if I have to run through a prickly bush, I'm going to buy these jeans or shoes or whatever because and in a weird way, it almost like enhances the experience because it makes it more scarce. Like I had to work harder for this. It's like a weird IKEA effect. It's like, again, I would not suggest this for 99% of people, but there's some weird brands that like make you work for it where they'll run like, I've seen luxury, like again, I'm talking like super high end luxury, and they'll run ads without CTAs and stuff. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? And then I have to Google it and then I have to find it and then I have to buy it. I'm like, there's no way this is by design, but it is in some weird, I mean, maybe not, maybe that's just a perversion of it. But it's really interesting in that sense where it had this really odd effect of like, it introduces even more scarcity, which is again, what's driving the value and especially high fashion because it's not a utilitarian buy like this. A Birkin bag is no better than a $5,000 Coach bag. It is what it is. It's just an Hermes bag. You know what I mean? Now, and so it's just total scarcity. But okay, pivoting off of that, one of the things that blew my mind when you guys did the audit when I ran my old agency was the way you saw desktop to mobile. Are you guys looking at that, Ash, in terms of how your splits look and how those experiences look? Because that was one of the craziest things that audit came back to me with was like, hey, your mobile, this is how much people are on mobile or shopping, this is desktop, and then look at our desktop experience wasn't horrid. It was okay, maybe above okay, but mobile was absolutely atrocious, and that was the majority of where we're getting all our traffic. And so, are you guys thinking about that in terms of how people are experiencing it on both kind of mediums?
Yeah. So I mean, the obvious is that the most of the traffic is mobile, right?
Mobile now, yeah.
When we design landing pages or even like external agencies that have designed for us will always ask for mobile first before they design desktop.
Yeah.
That I mean, it just makes sense that way because it's like, all right, fine, desktop is whatever, like it's literally like 10% of the traffic, and majority of the time it's probably returning customers. It's barely new,
Oh, that's
so that's what I've
insight.
noticed. That's the other thing. So mobile, it's like, all right, all of our ads are running mobile feed, TikTok. This it's rarely desktop, so it's like just like we start mobile first to
Hmm.
basically answer that, and then you kind of expand out to I think tablet and then
Yeah.
desktop as well.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly how you should be approaching it. I think the main thing that we've been seeing, and to be totally frank, like we don't dive into a ton of our customers' data, but the one thing that we do see very consistently is whatever your, let's just say that, like you said, Ash, 90% of your traffic is coming on mobile. There's a higher percent of conversions on desktop. So what I mean by that is if 90% of your traffic is mobile, so 10% of traffic is desktop, 20% of the actual sales that you make are on desktop. So you get a lot of people coming in through mobile and they either get hung up or they save it for later and then they go
Mm-hmm.
in and they buy on desktop because they're just more, I don't know, it's like a mental thing of like pulling out your credit card
They're
on
more
desktop versus
comfortable.
using a phone.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it is one of those things where it's like we always tell our customers like don't just look at traffic because look at your actual conversions, like what did they buy on, because in a lot of cases, in at least almost every case of our customers, their conversion of actual like purchases is a little higher than their traffic desktop to mobile. um, so it does become more important, but I mean you're bang on, like most brands are driving paid traffic's being surfaced on a mobile device, so that's how they're coming through.
Yeah. No, sometimes like when we go through, I guess, getting audits from like random agencies, right? And then they come back to us about like our desktop. They're focusing on desktop only. It's like kind of like a red flag because it's like, well, that's not where the traffic's coming from, right? So, but
Yeah.
fully agreed, right? You have to have all aspects kind of sorted out because I mean, I'm like that. How you said, see something on my phone, and then when I'm working, right, I'm at the office, I'm literally on the computer. That's where I kind of finish that research and then decide if I want to buy.
Yeah.
Um, so
Oh, to
that
be hard at
totally
work while you're getting paid to make purchases. Get out of Ron. Are you
I,
listening here, Ron?
don't tell Ron.
but you're totally right with like I think as a previous like design agency owner, like our team always, no matter what the client was, no matter what their focus was, we always pitched desktop first, and it was completely selfish, right? Because it's easier to show fidelity. It's easier to, it's sexier, right? It's like showing a
Bigger
thumbnail
canvas.
versus like a big canvas. Like it's just
Yeah.
sexier. And to your point, like it's completely ineffective. And it's part of the reason why I'm not running a design agency anymore is because it was all smoke and mirrors. Like we were never implementing for customers on a basis where we're actually paying attention to things like conversion. It was just like, what's sexy, what's going to win an award for our agency. And, that was it. That was really all that it came down to. So I totally understand that.
Let's dive into some PDPs, Sean. When you think of like kind of like an information hierarchy, thumbnails, like what are you thinking about there? Like what's like free shipping? Like how are you trying to reduce the cognitive load? Like what are you thinking? Or just give me your headspace when you go to Ash's site and say, hey, cool, this is an amazing PDP, but how can I improve it or how could I not improve it? Like what would you be thinking about there for our clients?
Yeah, one of the things that we started doing recently, because there's just there's so many different variations of flows and content hierarchies on PDPs, is we actually started working with a company called splittesting.com. And basically, Dylan and his team are like constantly running split tests for all their clients.
Yeah.
And he kind of basically just downloads to our team, hey, here's the things we found this week that are like they win every test no matter what. And a lot of the times what's interesting is they're new things. It's not like shit that we're used to doing.
Yeah.
And so we've been actually testing a lot of new stuff with PDPs. One of them that we've been recommending a lot to test, not to just do, is to like completely remove quantity selectors and put them only in your cart. So you don't actually give the option of adding multiple units. And then
Interesting.
as an alternate test, replacing that completely with actual buy boxes for multiples. So buy 1 unit, 2 units, say 5%, 3 units, and they're actual like variant options. That's another test we've been doing. And then the one that Dylan came back with last week that was kind of mind blowing to me. And I now, ever since he saw it, I feel like it's following me around the internet because I keep seeing it, is moving variant selectors below the add to cart. So there's no information
too.
it's just add to cart, and then like subscribe and save single purchase or quantity is below the add to cart, which as a designer, I'm like, it's just like, it's total sin. But yeah, I'm like, what am I I can't argue with it. It's working. And now ever since he said it, I can't fucking get away from it. I see it everywhere. And so now I'm like, we're not recommending it yet because I still want to see more data on it, but it's super interesting to me, like some of the things that are working and aren't working. So I think the biggest advice I can give on PDPs is just like, man, test the shit out of all those little details, because quantity selector, placement of add to cart versus variants, all these little things, like split testing those, I mean, you can really dial it in. It's obviously different things work for different products and different price points, but man, there's so many different options.
So how do you guys prioritize like the PDP? Like, do you guys want to have the CTA above the fold? Does it matter if it's slightly below? Do you want to have information like at the top so people kind of go through the flow of like learning? Like what do you think is the best way to kind of go about that?
Man, because of my background in particular, being most of it with brand building and like kind of end to end product launching, I really start from the really foundational level of like, what is the product? So like as an example, if my customer is selling a plain white cotton tee, right? There's nothing special about it. There's nothing unique about it. There's no like, it's not like blessed with holy water. There's not like all this shit they need to explain. It's just a medium white tee. Put that add to cart button in the fucking head, like first thing on the page. Like there's not much I need to tell them in order to get them to buy it, aside from pick a size, right? And that price point is probably $15. The more information that's required to understand your product, the lower your add to cart's just gonna have to be. And it also depends on where your traffic's coming from, right? If they're landing on the PDP from an ad, you're gonna have to give them a little more info. If they're landing on the PDP from your homepage, which told them an entire story, you probably have to give them a little less info. And that's where it becomes tricky, right? Because there's not many brands that are pushing two different PDPs depending where you came from.
Right.
It's very rare. And it really should be done a lot more, in my opinion, because the information that a user has when they come in is very different depending on where they came from. So like to use your product as an example, I mean, let's just say that we're shopping collagen. There's going to be users that come in from an ad educating them about collagen, as an example. They probably don't need to be told what the hell the collagen is going to do for them. But if someone comes in cold searching for collagen for the first time on Google and they find MyObvi and they find Obvi and then they land on a PDP first, I kind of want to educate them a little bit on collagen. So that's not an easy task. Like that's not an easy solve, but the point I'm trying to make is like, it's so dependent on the product, the price point, how hard it is to understand the products. Like I was auditing a site this morning. Product's amazing. It's basically like an easy bake oven for adults. You have a food subscription.
Is that not an air fryer?
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first looked. But you literally take these food like the packs that they send you, you scan it on the oven, and then you pop it in, and it does everything. It just scans the QR and sets all the settings and everything. And they have like hundreds of meals, and then it also syncs with thousands of SKUs from grocery stores. So you pull in your whatever from whatever brand, like 500 different brands, you scan it, and it just sets it all up and does it for you. So anyways, the problem with this product and why the sales funnel is so long and the PDP is so long is because you're selling a smart oven, And then you're also selling a food subscription, and you got to communicate what types of menu items there are. How often do I get them delivered? Who loves it? Why do they love it? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? Like there's so many facets to communicating that. And so there isn't even a PDP. It's like a lander and then an add to cart, right? So there's just so many different scenarios. And so my best advice, long story short, is to really start at that foundational level of like, what do we make? And how are we selling it? Is it, some products you can't elevator pitch. It's just not possible. It takes more explanation, and you shouldn't treat your PDP that way, because in most cases your PDP is the elevator pitch, right? It's name, little social proof, how much does it cost, 2 bullet points, put it in my cart, right? And that works for a ton of products, but doesn't work for a ton of products either.
So like for those products where you do have to have that like education, right? Is it, I know that what we've tried to do in the past is like have like a sticky add to cart, right? So as you're learning and you kind of, okay, well, I'm sold at this point, all right, boom, add to cart. Or even like on our landing page, we'll kind of sprinkle the CTAs throughout. So it's not like you're hard selling, but it's like, all right, if you're okay at this, like you're ready to buy here, at least have the option to be like, all right, well, buy now and I'll take you to the buy box or whatever it is that you're on.
Yeah.
Do you think that's too much, or is that like, is it too salesy? Like, I don't know. I've seen some people that are like, okay, well, we only have one CTA, right? And like, I've seen pages where like it's sprinkled throughout, or like you don't even see a CTA until you read through the whole thing.
Yeah. I think the approach you're taking where you have, let's say, varying content blocks on a lander and multiple exit points, I think is right. And in 99% of cases, it's probably right. I think that what that does, and we do this with a lot of landing pages when we're auditing them, is let's just say that on your homepage, the customer's talking about, or sorry, the brand's talking about, how it works or what makes it great, the composition of the product. And what they end up doing is they use the CTA to say, learn more, right? And it takes them to another page that's not the PDP. And while that in certain product categories can make sense, all you're doing is giving yourself an excuse to not explain it properly on the homepage, right? There is very few things about very few products that you can explain in a headline and a sentence below it or a few bullet points. And as soon as you say, okay, I'm going to put a headline, a couple bullets, and then I'll learn more to a big fucking blog post about collagen, all it's telling me is that you weren't able to elevator pitch me on it. And it's just instantly, for me, that's lowering your conversion instantly, because I'm not taking them to the PDP, for one, to shop the product. And now I'm also just making their funnel longer, which is, in some cases works because you're educating, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. So long story short, I think having those CTAs throughout that lander is important, and just being mindful that majority of them need to be pushing to actual product purchasing, not more education, like a learn more page of some certain element. In the PDP with sticky add to carts, I love them. We've seen a lot of them work. I think where they fall short and where they don't work is when you make them compete with a more standard add to cart. So what I mean by that is I land on the page and the first thing I see is product image and a sticky add to cart. To me, that's where we see the conversion drop. So our advice is just simply because we see higher conversion on the more native one. So our advice is always let them scroll, discover the add to cart where you have it on the page. As soon as that add to cart is off frame, then the sticky pops in. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give on that, is it should not be visible until they're past the more natural one.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And for everybody listening, sorry, I hate acronyms. PDP's product detail page is basically just a product page. That's how Shopify refers to the product page. So sorry if you guys were lost there. Yeah, that's super fascinating. I never thought about that. Okay, give us some tips, Sean, on collection pages. What should people be doing on their collection pages? So those can be really, I actually had some really crazy conversion with collection pages, but it could also be, again, more of the people will just go and a bit of a flow where returning people just come, they click this and they know what they want. And so that's why they're converting. But I guess 2 questions. What are some tips for collection pages? And 2, how important are collection pages to really focus on?
I think for most brands, like Obby being one of them, I think depending on your catalog size, it's super important. I think one of the major things that a lot of brands miss is the second that you're in a specific category, right? So let's just say on Obvi, I click on collagen. It not offering the ability to filter and change what I'm looking at, right? A lot of brands they have their collection page that shows all products, and you can kind of filter and select which ones. But once you land on an actual specific category or a specific collection, they make it actually a little bit harder to filter. So I think that's one fault that a lot of brands have, is they're not allowing enough like versatility within the, I guess, collections ecosystem. The second thing that we see that works really well is just always, never showing one product at a time. So when you're on mobile and you're scrolling through products, just always make sure that it's 2x2. The
Track.
the reason the reason that this works, and there's multiple reasons that I love it, is one, you're letting users see, in a lot of cases, the entire product card at once. A lot of brands struggle to format their content in a way that they fit the image, the headline, the reviews, the price, all their info on a single screen view. This kind of forces you to have to do that because you're putting them 2x2. So not only does it force you to have to show an entire, I guess, product information set in one view, but it also forces you to like hone in on what are the most important things, right? Which is another fault of a lot of brands. They put too much information on the product collection page. Your collection page is really meant to just be kind of that exploration to make sure users can like pick where they want to go. You don't want people shopping from here. In a lot of cases, add to cart is killing conversion from here. We've seen it work, but in most cases, except for anomalies, add to cart should only be happening on landing pages and product pages. So by shrinking those down to, like I said, some brands it works.
Because we actually got some data back, at least for ours, right? And I think the reason why this is happening is because, like, again, a lot of our traffic is going to landing pages, right? And then they either buy there or they go to the homepage and they're searching around, whatever. The conversion rate from our collection page was higher than the conversion rate from the product page.
Yep.
Which is why we just did an overhaul on the collection page, because like right now it's like out of the box, like picture, price, reviews, add to cart. It looks like shit, to be honest. We redesigned the whole thing where now we added some of the stuff that you were talking about, like filtering, shopping by the categories, et cetera, et cetera. But I was just, I don't know. To me, I feel like it's probably the brands that are pushing to a landing page that will educate and then be able to buy from that page, but then also people will drop off and then they go, search for the collection, whatever it is, and they're ready to buy from there. So I'm just something that we saw on our end, that having that add to cart there, like, actually was better than the PDP.
Yeah, and it's not the same across all brands, definitely. Like, especially with the one like yours, where the products are, most of your products, the product category is something people are familiar with, right? So that also has an effect on it. They're coming in and they're saying, okay, well, like, I don't really need to dive deep on every particle of this product. I've either bought it before,
I know what collagen is. I'm just going to pick the flavor. Yeah.
So it becomes a little easier to add to cart wherever the hell it surfaced.
Makes sense.
So I could definitely see that being the case. And again, like, to your point, it depends on if they came right from an ad, right from a landing page. There's so many different angles to that. I think that, one of the other things that we see, and I like to see on collections pages, is just getting people to the products ASAP. Like, you do a good job on your site. Like, so many brands, they try and treat it too much like a landing page. And there are certain scenarios where it's like maybe you're launching a new product line or a new product that needs explanation, and that collection page needs to have a little more storytelling or education. And I think in those scenarios it makes sense. But I think it's really important that when users click to shop all or shop collagen or shop a category, that they're seeing products when they land there. Whether it's right at the very top or halfway is not the end of the world, but they need to see products when they land there, not a big headline. So I think that's one of the big things. And then also just providing additional info. Like, I think there's certain collections pages that just have too much. Like, there's too many products and it becomes hard to actually navigate. Like, where am I? What am I looking for? So I think there's a few brands out there that do a really great job of like segregating these into separate categories as you flow instead of just throwing them all in there and letting the
Sure.
user kind of find their way. Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant stuff. That's exactly when I was running my agency. What we found was that the collections pages were just get out of people's way. Give them kind of the biggest high note type of info, but make it clean and like get it. Like for example, like Ash does a really great job where it's an instant add to cart where you just hover and boom, I don't even need to go to the PDP. Like I know I want it.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like it's fantastic. I love it. All right, folks. So I made an egregious error. We actually didn't talk about the most important thing that it comes to, or one of the most value driving vectors, I guess, if you will, for a site's performance and conversion, site speed. So why don't we jump into that?
So I have questions for you.
Yeah.
So this whole time we've been on, like Shopify, right? Good and bad, pros and cons, right? 1.0, I guess is the way we're going to call it. How important is it to upgrade to that 2.0? And if not 2.0, how is headless? How are those themes kind of, in the conversation right now regarding site speed?
I think that what we've seen is going to 2.0 if you go through the proper channels and don't just hack it together. I think it can be really positive. Same with headless. Site speed, unfortunately, if you're just at the mercy of Shopify and their applications and plugins and shit like that, your site speed is going to suck. If you have a talented development team helping you implement everything, you're going to be a lot better off. I think that what we see for the most part across any store on any platform that's just dragging their site speed down is they test out applications or plugins constantly. They don't keep a lot of them, but the old code is just sitting there and it's just bogging the site down, and most people don't know how to get rid of it. I don't even know how to personally get rid of it, right? We have our team do it, but like it's bogging down the site and it's slowing it down. And so like deleting those, making sure they're not just like, oh, turned on off kind of thing, and actually deleting them from the theme are the most important thing, regardless of which version you're on. Cutting out that bullshit. And then image weight, video weight, that shit just, especially for like a brand like yours, Ash, that has a lot of products, like it can really crush things.
Yeah. No, even our nav was like so image focused that itself was taking 8 seconds to load. And so our dev had to go in and it was stupid. Literally, but saved it by just adding lazy load, right? So it's it loads in like 1 second now, but then when you actually click it, then that's when it loads. So like these small things can like just make such a difference, right? I mean, Sean, like in your opinion, site speed, how does that in general affect conversion rate?
To me, it's the reason we don't sell it super hard is because it's really hard to do, to be totally frank with you. But it's the most important. Like by far and away, your site can be a complete and total turd. Your brand can suck. If your site speed is good, you are going to have a good conversion. And it's funny, so many brands, they just don't give a shit about it because you can't see it. It's just like I was saying with the agencies, right? They want it to look sexy, and then brands buy in, and it's like this. They're so into aesthetics. And when someone goes and spends 10 grand to increase their site speed, the only thing that changes is the site speed. There's no different visual. It looks identical, right? And founders have a tough time with that. Or everyone has a tough time. You want to see something change when you spend that much money, and a lot of them are just really, I guess, blind to the fact that it's affecting things, and they don't want to admit it because they click on the site and they're like, oh man, it's not that slow. What they don't realize is that like most people that are using your site are on a shitty 3G connection, or like who knows, right? Like every connection's different, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's like every extra second it takes to load, your conversion drops 8%. So like fucking moving from an 8 to a 4, for instance, in your case, Ash, like that has a crazy effect on conversion. Just because in those cases where it's really slow, on lower internet connections, like shitty internet connections, they're not just not having a good experience, they're not ever seeing your site because they're sitting there for 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and then they're just like, fuck this, and they swipe the window away. They've never even seen your logo before.
Yeah. That's so funny you say that too, because I always had that issue. One, it's very astute to say that it's just hard. So it's easier to just not bring it up because it is very hard to, and sometimes you have to get into some architectural stuff, and like it just gets really, really gnarly. But the other thing is, it's the exact same thing. There was a funny, back in the day, the president of Egypt was getting in, like Cairo has some of the most notoriously bad traffic. And people would tell him about it. They're like, what are you talking about? I never hit traffic. It's because everybody clears the streets for him. And it reminds me of the founder on just super screaming Google Fiber. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This site's super snappy for me. Yeah. This site's super snappy for me. So it's like, what did I pay you all this money for? That's not any faster. But that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to talk about site speed. Site speed, super important. Figure it out if you can. Definitely some easy wins, though, are, like you said, Sean, right? Like, and to your point, Ash, too, lazy loading, like how you load the site, and then just making the assets lighter weight, where you don't need to have, 10 megabyte kind of pictures loading up. Like, you can definitely compress those down, and that can be some kind of easier wins versus having to really dig deep and re-architecture the site. But to Sean's point as well, it's super, super important. So make sure you do that. Sean, you made it through a whole episode of AdSpend, my man, my favorite Canadian. I love it. Tell the people how to find. What's this audit club too? I didn't know you had this thing. What's going on? You got to tell me these things. We'll promote you on the Whale app. Let's go.
Sorry, we launched it about 6 weeks ago. It's basically it's a private Slack community. We've got a ton of different founders in there. We only unlocked 100 spots to start. We just kind of admittedly had never run one before, and we wanted to work out the kinks. So we sold 100 spots, and we just started opening up more. It's been really great. There's a ton of different channels, from paid media to like kind of everything. We've got experts in every field kind of in there answering questions and whatnot. And then every week we also do, I do live teardown. So you come into a live Zoom and submit your domain, and then I, no holds barred, rip down your site. And then once a month we have some guests. So like Nick Sharma was on last week. Lots of different people coming in. And it's you can just go to our site, click on Audit Club, audit.co, and then click on Audit Club and sign up. It's I think we're still running our introductory rate. I think it's $50 a month. And you also get a ton of cool discounts. Like we have a partnership with Junip, we have a partnership with Triple Whale. So if you're just looking to save a bunch of money on all your apps, you can also just sign up and never come to the club.
That's incredible, man. Congrats. That's what's up. It was funny because Ash was very prophetic, where he called kind of the death of the Facebook group. It's almost like the death of AutoTune. He called that a few weeks ago, and it's been I've just been, because we have something similar-ish, not as fancy as yours. But we have Narwhal Nation that we do that Slack group in, and people love it. It's over 700 people, and I think there's just I don't know. Ash was spot on, where I've been getting way more value from Slack groups these days than Facebook groups. It feels just a little kludgy, a little gross. A lot of brands still have great Facebook groups. Shout out to Avi. You're always the talk of the town.
I was going to say it depends. It depends on the vertical.
It depends on the vertical for sure. Yeah, you're always the talk of the town when it comes to community. But Sean, dude, thanks so much for having us. Drop the people. What's your handle? How can people follow you on the Twitters?
My handle is Brandtify, BRANDTIFY, and then Audit is just Audit Co or Audit. I actually don't know.
Oh, beautiful.
Audit
beautiful.
is.
Doesn't even know the own handle. That's how big league this guy is. This is how big league this guy
Audit.
is.
It's Audit is the Audit one. Sorry, both of them are wrong.
Still one of my favorite brand names. Ash, tell where the people to follow you. What is it? Vitamin Shop? Where are they supposed to be buying it from? Send them a picture. Shop. Yeah, let the people know.
Go to your local Vitamin Shop, take a picture, tweet it at me, please. But other than that, follow me on Twitter, Ashman Milani. Really close to 10K soon, hopefully. So drop a follow.
Let's get them
please.
there. Let's get them there, people.
We'll do a little something special.
This fruity cereal with the super. I don't even take collagen, but this fruity cereal collagen looks amazing. Oh, I might have to buy some. This looks
top seller, man. I'll send you some. Top seller though. Fruity cereal. We literally sold out. I don't even want to get into like the media buying stuff of it, but like we just sold out because like TikTok went crazy, and we literally like we have nothing left. Like everything's at Vitamin Shop, so like we had to bring back.
Me TikTok is a viable media buying channel. Zing! I didn't say it. Hey, we're being good. We're being good people here. I love you, Taylor.
Yeah. Much respect, much respect. But yeah, man, Vitamin Shop, please check it out.
Cool. Let's get him to
drive past
10K. Take some Vitamin Shop stuff. Go get an audit so you can start printing more money. Join Audit Club. So there's spots open now, Sean? People can still join?
It is, yeah. We're opened it up until we hit 250, which we're getting close to. So get in there.
Get in there. Get in there now.
Sign
It's
up
amazing.
today.
Sean's one of my favorite humans. Thanks, Sean, for the quick turnaround. Thank you for taking Cody's
Yeah, of
place.
course.
Cody is irreplaceable, but he's taking the wife to the beach, so you can't hate on that. And he's been posting some really cool pictures, and I guess he's playing some decent golf. So we love you, Cody. We'll have him back next week. But that's it for us, folks. And I got you out, Ash. Hard stop at 5. Boom. Done. Did it. Look at that. That's the pro move over here, people. I can run a clock. Sean, again, thank you so much from the Great White North. Hey, you're coming to Austin for the Whaleys, right? September.
Of course. Can't wait.
Oh my God, it's gonna be a rager.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be a rager. What? Oh, you know what we should do? Maybe you'll present an award, like some kind of a conversion award. You'd be into that,
Whatever
right?
you want, man. I'm there. Yeah.
Oh, that's rage. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait. Folks, if you want to get more involved with Triple Whale, it's trytriplewhale.com. We also have a fabulous newsletter called Whale Mail that goes out every Tuesday, Thursday, and you can sign up right on our Twitter profile at Triple Whale. That's it, folks. Thanks for sharing a Friday with us, and we'll see everyone on the flip. Bye.